Hey everybody, welcome to episode 1 of the Sports Path. My name's Darren Carlisle. I am joined by Nathan Utt, who I've known for, a long time.
Long time.
Since high school, which really doesn't seem that long ago, but it's a long
It
time
was.
ago.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the Sports Path, I'm just going to talk to people within sports who do it as a career, who did it, growing up, that kind of thing, and just finding out, everybody's different path in sports. I've got some interesting guests I hope to interview. Nathan Utt being the first one. So Utt, thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, of course. Happy to come on and have this conversation with you.
Awesome. So tell me about what you're doing currently.
Okay. So currently I'm actually in a transition. So I've been teaching and coaching at one high school the last 6 years at a private school in Katy, Texas. And currently I'm transitioning. I've got a new job hired on for August where I'll be teaching and coaching at a different private school in Tomball, Texas, called Rose Hill Christian School. So I will be a varsity assistant on the football team and the varsity pitching coach and assistant for the baseball team.
Awesome. So talking about coaching, you played baseball all your life, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And what about football? Did you play football all your life?
Yeah. So I started playing as a kid, played all the way up to about high school, then took a couple years off, and then played the last year or two of high school.
Okay.
But yeah.
Cool. So what made you want to get into, number one, you're a teacher also, is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
what made you get into teaching and then coaching as well? I mean, is it just
Sure.
a love for the sports, or what is it?
Sure. So I knew from an early age, probably about 6th or 7th grade, that I wanted to teach and coach. And to me, it was like we were always playing sports in the backyard. I didn't actually play on any organized teams, football or baseball, until I was like 10 or 11 years old. But I grew up in the backyard playing. Yeah, we just my brother and I, or my buddies, we were constantly playing football or baseball or whatever outside, and we were always competitive, always pushing each other to do better. So growing up in that atmosphere, sports were always something I wanted to do, always something we were watching on TV, and just playing. I loved baseball. Growing up in St. Louis, how can you not love baseball, right? So it was just a part of our lives. We'd go to the games all the time, play in the backyard and everything. So once I started playing, I was like 10 or 11 when I got on my first baseball team, and football team. I started the same year. It's just a competitive drive. And then the teaching aspect, as I got older, I was always really, I always looked up to my older sister. And when I was in middle school, she was in college and she was going to be a teacher. And so that kind of I always had liked history. History was always one of my favorite subjects. We shared some classes together in high school in history. So I always enjoyed history. And so I knew probably about middle school that I was like, I want to, I love sports. I'd love to be a coach someday. I'd love to teach someday. And I think really that kind of is what, and I never wavered from that. I went all the way through high school, all the way through college. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I never changed majors or anything. So I think ultimately looking back now that I can kind of see in hindsight, and we'll talk more about this as we go on, but my faith's really important to me too. And so looking back hindsight now, I really believe that was God putting that in me from an early age, kind of just laying that foundation and that groundwork for what I'm doing now. So
that's awesome. So there's so much to dissect. I know it doesn't seem like it, but just based on that on that alone,
oh yeah,
there's so much to dig into from my perspective. You have, how old's your oldest?
So I have 3 boys now. My oldest is 8 years old.
Okay.
He just turned 8. And his name's Colton. Our middle son is Grayson. It will be 5 next month. And then we have a 10-month-old little boy named Cameron. So
It's awesome, dude. Awesome. Yeah. 8 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So
how old are your kids now?
I have a 5-year-old about to be 6.
Yeah.
That's Tucker, my son.
Yeah. Right.
I have a girl, Sadie. She is going to be 4 at the end of this week.
Awesome.
And then I've got Ellie, who turned 2 in April.
Great.
Yeah. So I want to get into it down the line, not right now, but I want to get into the courage and everything it took to move to Texas.
Sure.
But right now, based on your conversation and what you were saying, you didn't play organized sports till 10 or 11.
Mm-hmm.
You're a coach. You coach high school kids.
Right.
And in Texas. So sports are kind of a big deal.
A little bit.
Yeah. My son is 5. He's better at baseball than I think I ever was. He's a switch hitter and a switch thrower, which is very, very cool.
There you go. There you go.
But I was having a conversation with a select team about starting a team. And it was $500 or $600 per player for this team. It's a big name company that runs it.
Sure.
You did not start playing organized sports until 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And you ended up going to college as a pitcher.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, as a high school coach, what is your opinion on youth sports and taking it maybe too seriously early on?
Yeah. Man, and you're saying that you're hitting it on the head. And I think, I don't know what the climate is in St. Louis anymore with youth sports. I've lived in Texas 9 years now. So, but man, I know what the climate is here. And I think there is a very strong culture of youth sports. And I think that is taken too far sometimes, especially in baseball, because it is a sport that in Texas, you can play year round.
Yeah.
And you have, 8U, 9U, 10U teams out there playing 60, 70, 80 games a year. These kids are going to burn out. And I think, and I honestly, I wanted to play sports when I was younger. My parents, my brother started at T-ball when he was about 5 years old and started playing baseball. And by the time he was in middle school, he was burnt out. And so my parents didn't let me play until I was a little bit older, because they didn't want me to have that feeling of already being burnt out of it. So, and of course, everyone has different situations and different coaches and all that. But I think it's a lot. I currently am coaching this summer for a select organization as well. And it's the organization I'm with is a big organization here in Houston. And they have 9U or 8U through 17U. So kids that are going into their senior year is the kind of the cutoff, because at that point, you're either going to go to college or you're not. So
yeah,
I currently coach a 16U team for this summer. And it's great. I mean, I think at the high school level, the select organizations that are out there now to expose these kids, they use social media every weekend. They're blowing up Twitters. All the college coaches are following it. It's awesome. It's really cool for those kids, and those kids that are, kids like us who went to a small high school who really didn't get a lot of exposure. And we both wanted to play college baseball. And I literally, our senior year, I literally started calling college coaches and saying, "Hey coach, will you come look at me?" And
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So you remember we talked, we had Joe come back and he helped us talk to Hannibal.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout that process, I went from there and just started calling other colleges that kind of were in that realm with Hannibal. And that's how I ended up at Missouri Baptist. I called the coach at Missouri Baptist and said, "Hey coach, this is me. This is what I can do. Would you be interested in coming to look at me? And he came out and watched one of our Legion games, and then it was, went from there. But so for kids that don't go to the biggest high schools, that aren't winning state championships every year, this select organization at the high school level is great, because they can get the kids that really do have the talent and the work ethic to play college ball. They can get them exposed. I think where we go too far with it is where these, you have your 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old kids playing nonstop. And specializing. You see kids specializing already in one sport at 10 years old.
Yeah.
You see kids calling themselves POs at 11, 12-year-old.
What is that?
Pitcher only. PO, pitcher only. Yeah.
Did you say at 12?
Yeah. 10, 11, 12 years old, you'll have, and really, honestly, it's driven by the parents.
Yeah.
It's driven by the parents at that point. But I do think it can be taken too far. But yeah, youth sports right now is a whirlwind. And I haven't, like I said, my 8-year-old son, he just had his first season of baseball this year, playing at our little league in our local town.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more laid back. It's not select. It's, but it's introducing him to the game. He had a great coach who I really liked, and he learned the game, and he's fallen in love with it. So that's all I want. But I do kind of worry about what's it going to look like 2 years from now if he wants to play. Like, he's going to fall behind, or any kid's going to fall behind these other kids if they're not playing 10, 11 months out of the year, which is crazy. But at that point, you're going to fall behind. You're not going to get as much playing time. You're not going to develop as quickly. But once at that age, though, there's still so much time to develop.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily saying like, oh, if he's not playing year round by age 10, he's got no chance of playing college, if that's what my son wanted to do, right? Or anyone really. It's not to say that, but it is, there is going to be that development. These kids are, honestly, man, especially in Texas, and Tomball, Texas is just northwest Houston. It is known, like, it's a baseball factory around here. Like, there's tons of select organizations. All the high schools take it super seriously. Like, it's a baseball area for sure.
They bang on trash cans and stuff down there for balls.
Yeah.
Sorry. I had to throw that in there.
Yeah, that's fine. We are now and forever will be anti-Astros still. So
Nice.
Go Cards.
Right.
But and so it's taken really seriously in our area, which I like. But it's kind of a whirlwind for these kids growing up. So
yeah. So you talked about kids being pitchers only at 11, 12 years old. So I'm going to expand from there. Do you think that playing multiple sports is good, or do you think playing baseball all year round is better? Because, like you said, you don't want kids to fall behind. So,
right.
Which way do you think is the way to go? Because I can see both arguments.
Sure. I'm always a fan of playing multiple sports.
Yeah.
I played multiple sports. You played multiple sports. We've kind of gotten away from that, especially here in Texas. It's different. The high schools are a bit different than they were where, in Missouri growing up for us. Like, they have athletic periods during the day. So instead of going to gym class, they go to football if they're on the football team, or they go to baseball if they're in the baseball team, or volleyball or the swim, or whatever it may be.
Huh.
Like, so they have an hour-long period. Instead of going to PE,
you practice.
They go to practice, right? And then they also practice after school, like a normal practice.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Yeah.
So being in that situation, it really makes it hard for kids, especially when you're going to a 6A high school that's got 3,500 kids in this building, and they're, huge football teams and really good baseball teams. Like, it really makes it hard for kids to play multiple sports. So the culture in the schools here, at least in Texas, and I know other states do it the same way, it's hard for kids to play multi-sport. But it is possible, but the coaches have to be on board with it too. And sometimes the coaches are not on board with it. So I'm a big fan of multi-sport athletes. If you look at what the college coaches are telling us these days for any sport, the college coaches are recruiting kids that are multi-sport athletes because you're more well-rounded. You're more well-rounded athlete.
Mhm.
I mentioned the kids might fall behind if they're not playing quite as much baseball or whatever it may be, but I think the bigger risk in that is playing the same thing so much that either you get burnt out
Yeah.
or your body starts to break down because you're doing the same motion over and over and over. And that's,
Yeah.
we have a record number of arm injuries amongst teens these days, and they're taking all kinds of measures. We have pitch limits now in high school ball, and all of that, which I think is good. It's good for the game, but really, I think what we need is more awareness from coaches, more awareness about arm health and things like that. And really, I think playing multiple sports throughout the year, it gives your body a break. Like if you're a pitcher in high school, like, yeah, you have your spring season, you're going to play summer, but like in the fall, go play football. Give your arm a break while you're still getting stronger. You're still working on bettering your body. Injuries are going to happen. That's the big thing. Oh, well, I might get injured. Yeah, well, you might get injured walking down the sidewalk. So that's a risk you're going to take. I mean, if you're 17 years old and you're looking at being a first round draft pick, like, okay, don't go play football. But most kids aren't in that situation. Right. Most kids can safely go play football or play basketball or play, and do everything you can because it's more fun. You meet more people, you make better friends, and you don't look back at high school and say, man, I wish I would have done that. So that's my opinion on it. I think multi-sport athletes are good for high school. And especially for me, like working at a small private school for the last 6 years and where I'm going to next year, small private schools, we have to have multi-sport athletes. We have kids that are playing 3-4 sports. We have kids that they're running track and playing baseball in the same season there. And so it's like because you have to have your best athletes out there. So we have to share athletes and we encourage it. And like I said earlier, I just think it makes a more well-rounded athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So you played college baseball.
Yeah.
You are what, 6'4" and left-handed.
Left-handed.
What did you top out at velo?
Velo in college, I topped out at 91. I didn't sit there. I touched it a few times. 90, 91 was kind of where I would top out, but most of my pitching, I was 87 to 89.
Okay.
Just kind of sat there. I was 90%, maybe not that much, 80, 85% fastballer. Really lived on my fastball, and just kind of, threw a change up curveball slider when I had to.
Okay.
I never was a strikeout pitcher. I was, I think the most strikeouts I ever had in college was in one game was like maybe 5 or 6. So I was a pitch to contact guy. And I know this now. I didn't know this then, right? So I was fairly successful. I didn't give up a lot of home runs, didn't give up a lot of hits. My batting average against me was pretty low. My ERA was pretty low for my career. And now that I'm, outside of playing and I'm coaching and I'm pitching coach, and I can look at mechanics, I still have some old videos of me throwing. What I realized is, what made me successful is my mechanics and the way that I hid the ball. So I'm big body, obviously, 6'4", 240 when I'm playing. Like
I can picture you pitching right now.
Yeah. So I hid the ball well, which for a hitter makes it harder to see the ball quicker, which means my 87, 88 is going to look more like 94, 95. And when I'm touching 90, 91 on a good day, it's going to look more like 96, 97 because they can't see the ball fast enough. And so some people call it a heavy ball. It just means the ball is coming out it just looks faster than it is because they couldn't see it as soon. And that wasn't me being crafty or smart. That was just, I looked at videos later and like, oh wow, this is why I was, had some success. But
So it's the Josh Hader effect, because everybody says he kind of hides the ball.
Yeah.
And he throws a heavy ball.
Yeah.
You've got guys like Jordan Hicks throwing 102, but people are making contact with it. They're not squaring it up. But with Josh Hader, he's missing bats. So that's interesting. So let's look at Josh Hader compared to you. You're a big dude. Josh Hader is not.
Sure.
How the heck is he able to throw 97? I mean, you took baseball extremely seriously in college. Obviously, you have to.
Sure.
You had great mechanics, like you said. Is it God given, or what is it?
Yeah, I mean, there's part of it for sure, and there's all kinds of people out there now who train, especially around Houston area. I see it all the time. There's pitching coaches, and they get onto all the analytics and the tech of it all, and they're using TrackMan, and they're using all the different cameras and different launch monitors and things to monitor every little statistic to get every little, mile per hour extra. And they're looking at all that, and it's great. But I think there is a huge emphasis on velocity now in our culture now.
Oh yeah.
More, and I would say the emphasis is on velocity more than it is on strikes for pitchers. I have a hard time with that philosophy, but from a major league standpoint, right? Velocity is, strikes are easier to teach than velocity. So if you can get a kid that's 18 years old and he's throwing 98 and he's a little bit wild, versus a kid who's throwing 86, but paints corners, they're going to take the kid throwing 98 and develop him into somebody who can throw better strikes. It's a lot easier to teach the strikes than it is the velocity. So I get that mentality, but I think there can be an overemphasis on velocity these days. But yeah, so a guy like Josh Hader, yes, partly it's genetics, it's God given, but also it's just understanding like his body mechanics and understanding how to get every ounce of the energy out of his body. Some guys do it naturally, some guys have to learn it. And when I was playing ball, I mean, it was my last year of college ball was almost 10 years ago. So yeah, exactly. So I've been out of the game 10 years. We didn't have the tech. We didn't have, let's break down the slow-mo video, putting the little sensors on your body and looking at all on the computer. And so I didn't have that going back, and I wasn't real in tune with my own mechanics yet. I think it's funny. I joke with my players now, and I joke with some colleagues, but I think I'm a better pitcher now than I was in college. Granted, I probably can't throw as hard, and I definitely wouldn't have the stamina. But the understanding what my body's doing and understanding like the mental game behind pitching, I think I could do it better now because I've grown, I've matured, I've understand it better. Once you coach something, you understand it so much better than you did as just a player. And so, so mechanically, it was just, I probably wasn't getting the full potential out of what I could have done. But at the same time, I think it's mostly just it's genetics. It's God given. I've heard somebody talk. I can't remember who was a famous pitching guy that's pitching coach. It's been in the MLB for 30 years or something like that. I can't remember who his name is now. But he talked about how he believes that everybody's got like a window of potential from pitching for velocity. Everybody's got their own window of potential. Some guys' window is 98 to 103. Some guys' window is 88 to 92. Like, it's just like your potential for your body and your genetics. Like, you can get your full potential, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to throw 98 miles an hour.
Yeah. Some guys are 40 to 50 miles an hour,
Right. Right. Sure. Yeah.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Some guys are second basemen. Yeah.
Some guys are just second basemen, can barely make the throw 90 feet.
That's right.
So you're in Texas.
Yeah.
you're from St. Louis. How did you end up in Texas?
Yeah. So when I was in high school, my sister, the same sister I mentioned earlier, who I'd kind of always looked up to, and we were a lot alike. She was living in Illinois at the time. Her husband that she's married to is from Tomball, Texas, where we live now. And so when I was in high school, they were living in Illinois and had decided he wanted to move home. All his family's here.
Gotcha.
And so they moved down here, and then we started just coming to visit, you know, periodically or for holidays or whatnot. For summertime, we'd come down and visit. And I fell in love with this area. I just thought it was great. It was cool. It was different. And so I kind of started thinking, hey, I'm going to live there someday. Right. And so this was when I was like 16, 17 years old. And then go through high school, go to college, play ball, meet my wife. We started dating our freshman year of college, got married after our junior year of college. And I was telling her the whole time, like, hey, I want to live in Texas someday. And she was like, nope, not happening. Like all her family's up there still,
Yeah.
and just outside of St. Louis in Illinois. And it was just like, yeah, that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. And so as we were finishing school up, we're both education majors. We're both going to be teachers. The market for teachers, the market for education in St. Louis was really, really hard to get into at the time. You'd have one of the good districts in St. Louis and the suburbs of St. Louis. It would be a job opening and it'd be 400 or 500 applicants for one job. And for a kid coming out of college with no teaching experience, you had no chance of getting a job. And so when we finished school, we talked about moving down to this area in Texas and Houston because a lot more schools, it's a bigger area, a lot more people. And that honestly, the pay is better for education. At least it was then. I think it still is better some, but Missouri's I think they've come up some since when we were there, but the pay was a little bit higher. There's more schools and more jobs to go around. So we decided after I finished school, I finished school in the spring of 2013, finished college with my degree. My wife finished a year ahead because she didn't do the 5-year plan like I did. But so we decided, hey, let's go try it out. So we moved, we packed our apartment up, packed the U-Haul up and drove to Texas. No jobs, nothing guaranteed. But let's go figure it out. And thankfully we did have some help from some family, like the house we lived in, my sister and brother-in-law owned, and they rented it to us. And so we were able to, we had a place to stay at least. Right. So,
Yeah.
And then we were able to, I found a job at Home Depot right away just to make some money and to be able to pay our bills and whatnot. And then, but the cool thing is we moved down here, and within 2 weeks of living here, my wife had 6 interviews and 2 job offers for teaching.
Holy smokes.
Which in 2 years of trying to get interviews in St. Louis, she never even got an interview. So it was just like, it was a big difference. And so immediately we felt that like, we've made the right decision. And then it took me a couple of years to get into teaching. I did some odd jobs and different things. I worked for a company doing warehousing logistics for a couple of years with one of my buddies I played ball with in college, who's from this area.
Mm-hmm.
And so we worked together. And then in 2016, I got the opportunity to get my first teaching and coaching job. So, and that's the school I had been at the last 6 years. So it was a big jump. It was a leap of faith for us. It wasn't a decision we made blindly. We talked about it a whole bunch. We prayed about it a whole bunch, and we felt like we were doing what we were supposed to do. And here we are 9 years later, and we still feel like we've made the right decision. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you talked about it being a leap of faith.
Sure.
Tell me about your faith.
Yeah.
Just tell me about your faith.
Sure. So I grew up in a Christian household. Grew up going to church. I got baptized when I was 8 or 9 years old. And that was always a part of our life. It wasn't something that mom and dad forced down our throat. It was just part of our lives. It was what we did. Growing up, obviously in adolescence and high school and teenage years, I didn't really follow my faith much. we all have those rebellious years and those years where we're trying to figure out who we are and what we really believe. And we don't want to just believe what mom and dad believe. We want to believe what we want to believe, right? Or do what we want to do. We want to live in the moment. And so those years happened. But really in college, I kind of got plugged in with, I went to a small Baptist school, Missouri Baptist University, right in St. Louis. And so I got plugged in with a lot of guys there who were serious about their faith and who had figured it out for themselves. And so being around that group of guys kind of really made me realize, yeah, you know what, this is what I believe. And I wanted to live it out. And so started taking my faith more seriously. And at the same time is when I met my now wife then. And she was very serious about her faith. And so it worked out that we kind of grew together in our faiths. And when we got married in 2011, we got plugged into a church in St. Louis. And our church has been a big part of our lives since. And when we moved to Texas, we got found a church right away that we really wanted to go to or really enjoyed. And really, since we don't have much family down here, I have a sister here, but our church family has been, a big important part of our lives for us. We hang out with people that we go to church with. They've been, we have one of our pastors is like him and his wife are like honorary grandparents to our boys. And they've been real big in our lives over the years. Just kind of that support group that we need since we don't have, our immediate family real close by.
Awesome. So what are you Baptists?
No, it's just our church is a non-denominational Christian church. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, that's awesome. So from here, with Jesus in your life and your family, your small group of family that you have down there in Texas with you.
Yeah.
What does the future look like for Nathan Nutt and family?
Yeah. So, well, like I said, my wife and we've been married 11 years, have 3 kids. I think we are not done in that kid department yet. I think we're going to try one more time to see if we can get a daughter. Probably not. I'm going to end up with 4 boys, which is crazy, but that's okay. So we're not done growing our family yet. Career-wise, and I'll tell you what, my passion is the classroom. I absolutely love being a teacher. So I teach AP history classes. I teach all like the high level college classes, AP US history, AP government, AP geography. So I teach those classes and I love it. I love being in the classroom. I love having that influence. I love having students in that setting and being that person that they can come and they can talk to if they need someone to talk to, they can trust or open up to. I know we had teachers like that in high school that we were close with who, we have teachers that you probably still talk to. I know I still talk to some of them from our high school because they were just important role models in our lives. And so I love being that for somebody else. Coaching is the cherry on top, right? I love coaching, but if I had to choose between the two, coaching or teaching, I would stay in the classroom. At least that's how I feel right now. Thankfully, I haven't had to make that decision, right? I get to do both. So the future for me is right now I plan to stay in education. I plan to hopefully work on my master's in the next few years and get a master's degree in government and US history, things like that. But I plan to stay in the classroom. I plan to coach. Kind of what I've been told going into this new role, the head coach at my new school, the head baseball coach, he's been there a long time. Great guy. We're good friends. We've been coaching against each other for 6 years. We've gotten to know each other off the field. And he kind of was like, hey, come on over here, help me out for a few more years. And then I think his plan is to probably in the next few years retire. And then he wants me to take over the program at that point. So I could see myself being being at the school where I'm going for a long time. But at the same time, I don't make a whole lot of like future plans because I know they can change at the drop of a hat. So I'm just kind of along for the ride and preparing the road as we go.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think making plans is great and all, but someone else has bigger plans for us.
Right.
Right. So yeah, I definitely understand that. Well, that's awesome, dude. Let's see. We dug into your future, your faith, your family, your childhood, and coaching and everything.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you feel you want to hit on?
Yeah. So I would say from a coaching aspect, with any sport, something that it took me a while to figure out, and it was well after I was done playing before I figured it out. Because I finished college. Obviously, the goal was to play professional baseball, right? Everyone's goal was to play professional baseball, if you could. So when I went to college, that was obviously the goal, but it was kind of a distant, like different reality. Like, who knows if that's really going to happen? What happened to me personally is, like I said, I didn't play. I redshirted my freshman year, didn't play at all. Second and third year, spent some time in the bullpen. I think my third year, I got a start. And then my last 2 years, I was in our starting rotation at my school. And so I did progress. I got better. If you remember, right, my mechanics weren't that good when we were in high school, and I was pretty wild. But so it took me some time of growing and getting older and maturing and getting some coaching to kind of hone those skills in. But at some point, I kind of like turned off the light for thinking I was going to play professional baseball. And so I just kind of got complacent with it. And with getting complacent, I got lazy with it. And so I got, this is my lane, and I'm going to ride this out until I graduate and I'll be done, which is fine because I don't have any regrets in my life. I love what we're doing. I love where I'm at. But there was definitely, like, looking back, like, and I'm sure we tend to go into this, when we don't get to that next step, like, well, what happened? Like, what made me the victim that I didn't get to go play professional ball? Or like, how did I get, messed over that I didn't get my shot? Right. And that's not it at all. What it is, and looking, especially as I'm coaching now, right, I was lazy. Like, I wasn't busting my butt in the weight room. I wasn't busting my butt at practice to do extra, sprints or extra arm care or whatever else. I was doing what I needed to do. I was doing my job, and that was it. Right. And so what I would say is to kids that are still in high school, still trying to play college ball, still trying to play, into the pros, like, don't get complacent. Don't let people outwork you. Because that's really where it is. And like, I know now, like, as a coach, like, looking back at myself in college, I would not have recommended me to pro scouts, because I, like, looking at the way I was lazy about it and things like that. Like, so, because I see kids now who are like, hey, coach, what can I do? I want to play college ball. I was like, well, stop being lazy, right? I'm not going to put my name on the line to represent you so you can go be lazy and then, make me look bad, right? So I tell my kids, my students, my players all the time is outwork everybody, for one. And then also, like, when I talk to college coaches about some of my players, they'll call me and they'll say, the three main questions I get aren't, what's their ERA, how hard do they throw, or, whatever, like, how good of a hitter are they? The three questions I get are, what are their grades like? What do they like off the field? What's their character like? And the third question, which I think is great, is what are their parents like? Because college coaches don't want to deal with helicopter parents, who think they know better, right? So, which is kind of crazy that at the college level, that's something that coaches are dealing with. Because your dad was our coach in summer ball.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was a baseball guy, knew what he was doing, coached us very well. He would have never questioned our high school coach. He would have never come to the fence and started saying stuff to our high school coach, right? You
Yeah.
wouldn't have let him, first off, but he would have never done that.
Yeah.
Now we are seeing that. We're seeing that a lot. I've dealt with it as a coach where I have parents, trying to coach from behind the chain link fence. And college coaches are seeing it where they have parents trying to get involved and all that. And so that's a big thing. So if you're a parent out there for a kid who's got a chance to play, some college sports or whatever, my advice is to sit back and enjoy the show and don't try and be the coach. But anyway, yeah, for biggest advice I could give to any kid playing sports right now is just outwork everybody. Don't let anyone outwork you. Go hard on and off the field. Be a good student. If you're not a great student, find help, right? There's no shame in that. And then just like I said, just work hard and get better every day. So
Man, this has been like an intervention for me because everything you just said, it was me in high school. Like, yeah, I want to play college ball. Okay, what are you doing to work towards it?
Right.
You go to hitting lessons. Like that was it,
Right.
So
yeah, and
yeah,
honestly, man, if I wasn't 6'4" and throwing in the mid 80s in high school, I probably would have never had a shot because I wasn't working hard for it either. It was just kind of like, yeah, I want to do this, and thankfully I had that chance, and I got a little bit better, but it took me some time to kind of realize, man, I did not work hard for it. And that's the other thing is, like, we have raw talent. Some kids have raw talent and they try to ride that out and they live off it. But I promise you, there's 3,000 other kids that are your age that have that same talent, are better, and they're working harder to get better.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's
man,
it.
That's awesome. One other quick thing I wanted to hit on.
Sure.
You're a coach. I've been hearing of an umpire shortage because of the way parents are treating them and maybe even players now.
Sure.
What are you seeing? What got me thinking about this is what you were just talking about with helicopter parents.
Sure.
And then I'm watching, I watch baseball. I watch the Cardinals game every night with my son, and he's questioning umpires because of the little box that's on there now.
Right.
It's like, what? That wasn't even a strike. And he's 5.
Right.
So it really hits me hard because it's like, oh gosh, is he going to be questioning umpires when he's 10 years old?
Right.
So what are you seeing there from your athletes and from your parents?
Yeah. So first off, the shortage is real. It's happening. It's affecting games. Games are being postponed. Games are being canceled. It's because there aren't enough umpires to go around. I really think what exacerbated the shortage was COVID. People coming out of COVID and just not ready. A lot of umpires weren't ready to go back out and to get into umpiring just because of being sick or not wanting to get sick, whatever it may be. So I think that kind of started it. But also the culture right now, like you're saying, with the questioning of umpires, especially for these guys who, umpires come out to your high school baseball game, like they're not making that much money.
Right.
And to go and for it to be miserable the whole time because you're just getting yelled at, like, and berated with, whatever it may happen, like, it's not worth it to them. Right. And so for me, I haven't had much of an issue with that because my students, my players know if they argue with the umpire, if they question the umpire or they say anything to them, their butts getting put on the bench because I won't put up with it. That's my job, right? If the umpire did something that was egregious, I will talk to him about it. I will figure it out. I'll get help from the other umpire or whatever it may be. Or if I need to get thrown out to protect my guys, I will, right? If that's what needs to happen. But
has that happened?
No, actually, I have not. I've never been thrown out of a game, in a high school game. So thankfully, I haven't had to. But you just have to expect also, like, these guys aren't professional umpires, right? It's high school,
right?
It's high school baseball. Arguing balls and strikes with them is worthless because one, the call's not going to change, and two, now he's just going to get mad at you, and you're not going to get any calls that go your way the rest of the game. So it's pointless. You can ask questions, be polite with them, say, hey, where was that one at? Okay. And then, but I really focus it on, if I don't like a call, I talk to my pitcher. Like I'll say, hey, that was a great spot. That was a great pitch. Like, and I'll be loud. So we know, like, that was a good pitch. That was a good spot. We didn't get the call, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
We have to control what we can control and move on. And so my players, I won't put up with it from my players. And thankfully I haven't had to have a whole lot of issues from parents in that regard. With umpires, but it definitely is a problem where we're seeing an umpire shortage. And I think it's happening even at the younger ages with the select ball and with, the 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old teams that are taking things really, really seriously.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people out there who think their 10-year-old's going to start for the Astros tomorrow. So it happens, right? And so things are taken a bit too seriously sometimes. But it's funny. I've talked about this with some other friends and some of the guys I know that have played college sports and are either are coaching or have coached. Usually the parents who are the loudest and the hardest to deal with are the ones that didn't play as long as they wanted to. Usually the parents that are a little bit more laid back and a little bit more go with the flow are the people who really understand the game and who have played at a high level. And so
I'm going to be an awful parent.
No, because yeah, like you said, you didn't play college ball, but we played high level baseball and we played competitive ball, and you understand the game. And so it's and I'm not saying all parents are like that, but you see usually the parents who are more involved with the game had been more involved with any sport, right? Are the ones that are kind of allow things to just go on and allow the coach to do their job. And are a little bit less protective because that's how it was for us. Like we didn't have our parents weren't, taking care of all of our fights on the field. Some parents were, but for us it was, we had it good. I'll just say that we had it good. Our parents were there to support us, to enjoy it with us, and to let us fight our own battles. Right. So
we did have it good, man.
Yeah.
We had obviously still have great lives, but we're very fortunate and blessed.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a certain game, junior year of high school, last game of the year, if you remember, at Ronsick Park.
Okay.
We were down 5-1, I think, in the last inning. Real nasty lefty on the mound for Mexico, I think it was.
Okay.
But winning run was on second, tying run on third, 1 out. You're up. I'm on deck.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, Coach Folan says, "Hey, you got to get this done," because I could not hit that lefty for whatever reason. I couldn't hit him. I was on a cold streak, had a great year, but whatever, cold streak, I was terrible at that point. You strike out and you throw your bat and get thrown out of the game.
I don't remember this.
Really?
No.
You couldn't play the first game senior year because you got thrown out.
Wow. Yeah, I completely forgot that. I think now it's coming back to me.
Yeah.
It's coming back to me, but I did not remember that at all.
And Coach Folan had your back because he was like, Blue, he wasn't mad at you. He was mad at himself.
Yeah.
And it's not like you tossed your bat over the stands or something. Like you threw it into the other batter's box on your way back to the dugout. So it was on your way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were mad at yourself. It was, the biggest moment of the season for us.
Sure.
And the umpire threw you out in that game.
Yeah. Well, man, that's funny. I really don't have a good memory of that.
I had a good view of it.
It's the right call though. Like, kid throws his bat, he's gone. Like, And you know, as a coach now, I would agree with that call, and I would be mad at my player for doing that. But we all get caught up in the moment.
Oh yeah. And Coach
Man,
Fulton had your back.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. Yeah, because it's last game of the season and all that. But
oh man,
that's
tensions were high. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I have a lot of good memories of playing at Ronzett Park.
I struck out to end that game, by the way, just so you know.
Well,
and in the season,
I do. What I do remember is I struck out. I struck out to end our season. After our senior year playing Legion ball.
Did you?
It was yeah. We were playing in St. Peter's, the Recplex. Yep. And it was like last game, and I struck out to end the game there. That was fun. And by the way, that was my last at bat I ever had.
That's messed up, man, because you could hit.
Yeah, it was funny. So coming out, you know, in high school, I would have called myself an outfielder who could pitch.
Yeah, because you could rake.
Yeah, I mean, I had fun. It was good. I was okay. But I got to college, and immediately they're like, "Yeah, you're a PO." So I never got it. Like, we didn't even get to take batting practice. Like, not even a choice. So, yeah, it is what it is.
Dang.
I'll tell you what, though, I have really good memories at Ronzig, especially. But man, I loved playing the outfield. I love just absolutely trying to just hose everybody at home plate. And it was a lot of fun. I remember because Ronzig was always cool. If we played there a lot in the summer, and you know, the setting was cool. It was a good stadium. The lights were, you know, it was just like that classic summer night baseball. And I remember during warmups we'd do in and out, and like our last round of in and out from the outfield, it was like, who can throw the hardest to home plate? And man, it was like the show before the game, and it was just, I always loved that. It was a good time.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, this was an awesome conversation.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on with me, and let's stay in touch. And
yeah, for sure, man.
And yeah, I'm gonna end this recording. And again, thanks for being with me, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.